And a very warm welcome to the Property Developers and Investors podcast. Nigel Greene here from the Equa Academy, and I'm absolutely delighted to have with me today Richiko Olrichs. How are you doing?
Morning, Nigel. I'm very well, thank you.
Fantastic, fantastic. Now, Richiko, you're part of the Equa Academy family, which is just wonderful. We've been working together for some time now, and you're doing some amazing things out there. But I think just for the listeners, I mean, would you mind just introducing yourself and maybe just giving a bit of background, if that's okay?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I'm Richiko. I'm from the Netherlands originally. I moved to London about 6 years ago. Came here for a job opportunity, just found property along the way. So transitioned from working to doing running the property business and working with yourself and Mark with the Equa Group. So that's just a little bit about my background.
Yeah, and how long have you been doing property now?
I started property journey in 2019
Yeah.
with some education. So kind of the catalyst for that was, as mentioned, I was working in a job at the time. The company was going through a big global restructure. So a lot of jobs were being made redundant. Mine ended up being safe, but it just sort of got me thinking about job security. And the other reason being I've lived and worked in a lot of different countries, so didn't really have a pension anywhere. So all those things sort of made me think about, the future, security and things. And I did a property training course back in 2019, which sort of was the start of the journey. And haven't looked back since.
Fantastic. It's a very similar approach that I had actually, and it was many years ago. It was actually started with a bit of an inherent distrust of pensions. I couldn't really assimilate with it, to be honest. The relationship was once a year, and the letterbox would flutter, and this envelope would drop, and that would be my pension statement. And fees were taken in advance of performance, and all these sort of things. And it troubled me, I think, and I needed to find a way that was more tangible to enable a pension in the future. And property for me was that route. I could drive to it, see it, be part of it, interact with it, and I could see that grow over the years. And I think the beauty of property as well, it's you can transcend it through the generations as well, which is just fantastic as an overall legacy. But I mean, what made you choose property as a vehicle? Was it a similar thought?
Yeah, very much so. I think I like the idea of the stability it brings. It's an investment for long term. It's an investment where you get the cash flow, but you also get the long term growth. So compare that to, say, investing in the stock market. You're kind of hoping that the value will go up, but it kind of goes up and down. Whereas with property over the years, you can see gradually the value of your property will increase with time, as long as you hold on to it. But at the same time, you can also, earn an income from it, from rental income through the cash flow. So to me, that made it a really attractive vehicle and an asset class to build my future on and build my pension with.
You mentioned the stock market there, and I think that's an interesting one, and one, again, personally I struggle with, because I can't influence it. I can't directly get in there and make a difference, because it's just too big, isn't it? It's the global economy, really. Whereas, as you say, property, you can influence. It needs a new kitchen, bathroom, refurbishment from time to time. You can add value and some, which is great, not only from an equity point of view, but also potentially from a from a cash flow point of view. So really good. So tell us about some of the key milestones and achievements in your property journey thus far.
It's been quite a journey. So I started back in 2019, got my offer accepted, first offer accepted towards the end of that year, completed on my first property at the start of 2020. And obviously we all know what happened soon after that. So it's been quite a challenging journey, but just sort of kept going consistently with projects, sort of navigating the challenges that came with it. And a big milestone for me, sort of earlier this year, was I I managed to replace my previous income I had in the job. Salary I was earning in the job, giving my time away for 40 plus hours a week.
Gosh.
I now earn that same income from property. So that was a big milestone for me. Thinking I've actually just replaced my job with income from my assets. So I was really pleased when I hit that milestone.
Super. Well done. Congratulations. And I think it's a thing that, people do aspire to, ultimately, and have that passive income there, and you go and live your life as your own then, can't you? Which is just fantastic. We know things don't always go according to plan. And, I mean, this podcast is all about really just hearing people's experiences, the learnings, and I'm sure the listeners will get a lot from this as well, this particular point. But can you take us through something that maybe you've encountered unexpectedly, and indeed how you overcame those challenges?
Yeah, it certainly hasn't been easy. So to start with, when I tried to buy my first investment property, I had only been in the UK for about 3 years, so I didn't really have a very long credit history, didn't really have a big file. So my first challenge was actually really simple, was as simple as getting a mortgage. I spoke to several different banks, several mortgage advisors, and because of my short history in the UK, it was a real challenge to get my first mortgage. So I just kept digging and kept finding a way. I just needed to get that foot in the door. So ended up with probably a relatively high rate, but somebody who would accept me and was willing to offer me a mortgage to buy my first property. So I went with that. And then, as we all know, as it gets easier from there once you get accepted for the first one. But that first one was a real challenge. And, I thought, oh, here I go. It's my first one and I can't even get a mortgage. But yeah, just persisted and just kept finding a way, because I just couldn't accept no for an answer. So
Yeah, that's fantastic.
just managed to get that over the line. And
Yeah.
the next ones did become easier after that. Once you've established a track record and a credit file and history, then
Yes.
they'll be a bit more confident to lend to you. So that was the very first challenge I encountered.
Wow.
Then, as mentioned, once I completed on the first property, that was January 2020. Obviously, in March 2020, everything ground to a halt.
Yeah.
I was kind of just starting with the first refurbishment of that property. I had 2 projects on the go, so they all had to stop. All works had to finish. Then afterwards, things slowly sort of started back up again. People could go back into the house one by one. So it just slowed everything down. I thought it was going to be a 12-week refurbishment project, ended up taking 5-6 months. So certainly those were challenging times as well. But just navigating your way through, every day, bit by bit, just trying to get it across the finish line and
Absolutely.
keep pushing things forward. And we managed to
And
work with the team. Yeah, we did it. So, but it was challenging. Didn't see that coming at all when starting with those first few projects.
Interesting. And there may be people that are listening that have got a similar scenario. And what did you see in terms of that first mortgage product? I mean, you mentioned the rates were probably a bit high, which kind of makes sense. Did they? Was there any impact in terms of loan to value or anything like that you saw?
I was able to get the 75%. I think the going rate at that time, obviously it keeps changing all the time, but it was around sort of 2.5%, 3%. I had to go with double that. I had to go with 6 just to get in, and then be able to get that first product signed off. So, but it was just something that needed to be done to get the ball rolling and get things started. Yeah,
absolutely. And did you see that particular product as, from a strategic point of view, to be quite a short-term product, and then with the view to I'm then going to refinance to something a little different?
Exactly. Yeah. So as soon as the project was finished, then just looking at options to remortgage and put it onto a lower rate. So that's exactly what I did. Yeah.
Brilliant. So That's really, really interesting. I mean, what lessons have you learnt along the way?
Definitely lesson is things don't always go according to plan. You can make a plan, think, okay, this it's going to be X weeks, but my experience so far has learned that it doesn't happen. So flexibility, I guess, pivoting. You kind of have to be thinking on your feet and really always thinking about problem solving.
Yeah,
Just okay, there's been another challenge. How do you sort of manage it? How do you get around it? And just keep your eye fixated on the goal, because there's going to be
absolutely.
things thrown at you
Yeah,
from all angles. And yeah, so just find a
absolutely.
way to deal with it and keep moving.
And that is property, and that is life, isn't it? Really,
Hmm.
we're all going to come up against challenges. Plans don't always go as planned. It's having the ability to be resourceful, constantly being positive. We call it the whack-a-mole. I don't. You probably. I remember the game called whack-a-mole, and these moles used to come up and you used to whack them with a hammer, and that's kind of our day to day. As the moles come up, we whack them down. Just keep moving forward.
Yeah.
And but that's the thing, isn't it? As long as you can kind of reflect, finish the day, reflect and say, well, I've actually moved forward. It might not be a full step, but I moved forward half a step because I had to deal with a few issues behind us. I think that's the way. And you just keep being relentless, being resourceful, just keep moving forward, and you will almost certainly achieve what you want to achieve, which is fantastic. So what are your
Yeah,
plans for the
definitely. And I think it really, really helps to keep your eye on the goal as well. Just
yeah,
kind of step back and keep focused on the bigger picture of
absolutely.
what's the aim, what you're trying to achieve, what's the end goal,
Yeah,
and then everything that comes on the way is just, yeah, you have to circumnavigate and
absolutely, indeed.
find a way around it, because yeah, the end
Yeah,
goal is the end goal. You want to get there, so yeah, yeah.
yeah, very much so. And with that in mind, what are your plans for the future?
Sort of at the moment, hope to secure my first development project. So sort of started with buy-to-lets, HMOs, kind of looking into serviced accommodation as a strategy and development as well.
Fantastic.
So been looking at a couple of interesting things. Hopefully, one of
Mm,
them, yeah, comes to fruition. But yeah, that's the plan for the near future.
absolutely. Some exciting opportunities in the pipeline, isn't there, at the moment? And obviously, the world is a changing place at the moment. Seems to be changing every day at the moment. But that is life, and we just have to navigate, be positive, and be resourceful, and get forward, and keep moving forward, and all the rest of it. So I'm sure there's going to be more opportunity coming your way as well, which should be fantastic to see. But you might be aware that Mark and myself, we were the chapter authors in a book that we wrote a couple of years back, and it was called Advice to Your Younger Self. And we're very proud, actually, because it hit the Amazon #1 for a very short period, but nonetheless, it hit the #1 status, which was great. And I'd like to ask you the same question. If you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
It would have been start investing in property earlier. Yeah, I just sort of, didn't really know about it till a few years ago. It was just something that wasn't really on my radar. Always had jobs. I was always in employment, thinking that was the way to earn your income and earn your living, until I learned otherwise. So yeah, advice to my younger self, sort of about 20 years ago, probably would have been to start looking into that a bit earlier.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that was one of my tips to my younger self as well. Just to look at opportunities and kind of think outside the box, because they don't really teach this stuff in school, and certainly not in the UK. It's a very different approach to education. Not that I think the education system is amazing, and what they do for people. It's just a very different way of thinking, isn't it? And you tend to kind of fall into these situations and then inquire a bit more, and as you say, get education and move things on. So yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. Richiko, it's been an absolute pleasure. I mean, in terms of working with you and Mark and myself, we can see the effort you're putting in. I think all the listeners will glean from this interview your determination and your end goal, which is just fantastic. And I have no doubt you're going to achieve your wildest dreams, in terms of your aims and your goals. So keep it up. It's absolutely fantastic. But people, if they want to get hold of you or they want to follow you, how best to make contact?
I'm on LinkedIn. So Richiko Olrichs. There's only one of me. I think it's not a very usual name. So yeah, definitely do reach out on LinkedIn. My property company is called March Brown Properties. That's got a LinkedIn page as well, Instagram page, Facebook page. So do find me on social media. My website, marchbrownproperties.com. You can find some information on there as well. So lots of different ways to get in touch.
That's been wonderful. And, just hearing, the interesting, insightful aspects of your business, the life background, etc., challenging successes that we spoke about, your plans for the future, lessons that you've learned, which is absolutely invaluable for listeners. We all take away those nuggets, which is superb. And that's been absolutely fantastic. So, Richiko, thank you very much.
Thank you, Nigel. It's been a real pleasure to be on the show today.
Thank you very much. And that's the Property Developers and Investors Podcast. Nigel Greene from the Equa Academy. Thank you very much.